So, we went to the cinema to watch Belle, and we have some things to say.
A lot of things to say. And to say them, well, we're going to have to spoil this whole movie, so if you want to go and watch the whole thing first, we'll wait. Okay, welcome back.
First off, what is Belle? Well, Belle is the new movie by the legendary Mamoru Hosoda. It's loosely based on Beauty and the Beast.
Now we know what the movie is. Let's set the scene.
We were both feeling bored one chilly Thursday afternoon, so we decided to check and see if there are any good movies out at our local cinema.
I spot Belle on the list. There's a dub showing on.
I remember seeing the trailer, and as a fan of Mamoru Hosoda, I was already interested. I loved Boy and the Beast, and thought this one looked even better. We checked out the dub trailer, and this line...
I can finally sing again.
Sent shivers down my spine.
We had to see this movie.
But, and I feel really bad saying this, I've never left the cinema feeling more frustrated. Even more frustrated than when I saw Bridge to Terabithia.
Belle is simultaneously one of the best and worst movies either of us has ever seen. The highs are staggeringly high, but the lows are horrendously low.
And no one seems to be mentioning anything except how good the music is, so we have to talk about it. Before we start talking about the horror show that was the ending, let's spend a little bit of time talking about what the movie actually was in a bit more detail. As I mentioned previously, Belle is the new Mamoru Hosoda film. The movie follows Suzu, a 17-year-old living in a rural town. Scarred by the death of her mother, she's lost the ability to sing or socialize. But with the anonymity of the VR world You, she's able to don the avatar of Belle and sing again.
Belle is broken up into two main sections, the real world and the digital world. In the real world, she deals with real problems, trauma from the death of a parent, or her crush on her childhood friend.
Then there's the digital world of You, where she struggles with being internet famous, keeping her anonymity and her infatuation with another user by the name of Beast. The You portion of the story feels like it was written by someone who's only really just heard of the internet and decided they knew exactly what it is, but we'll talk more about that later.
Now, there's a lot of good things to say about this movie, so let's start with those. The side characters are all incredibly interesting and fun to watch interact with each other, so we're going to ignore Suzu for now and talk about them. The side characters in this movie show a kind of grounded realism that you rarely see in movies of this kind.
Almost all of them have a depth that I would be interested in seeing more of. Actually, let's talk about them, shall we? Let's start with Shinobu, Suzu's childhood friend. Shinobu is cool, collected, and caring. He's the same age as Suzu, but acts so much more mature by comparison. It's nice to see.
Up next, we have Kamishin and Ruka, the least popular boy and the most popular girl in her school. Each of them represents characteristics that Suzu wishes she had. Kamishin is unabashedly open about his passions. He loves kayaking and lets everyone know he doesn't hide who he is. He doesn't care how popular he is, and he's always a delight to see on screen. Ruka is the same way with her passion for musical instruments, although she's slightly more popular, showing the audience that you can do what you love and have friends. It's not all or nothing. There's one scene in particular between these two that had the whole cinema cracking up with how funny and adorable it was.
What? Oh.
Hiruka is the last important school-age character. She's incredibly important to the story, more than the other three. However, her place in our opinion isn't really in the positive section of the video, so you'll have to wait.
Leaving the school, we have the choir ladies. These 5 lovely ladies are the emotional backbone and mature perspective the story definitely needed. As friends of Suzu's mother, they have a deeper perspective and wisdom than you'd expect. That depth would help make them perfect characters if only they hadn't become vessels for the plot during the finale.
Lastly, for the important real-world characters, we have Suzu's dad. By all accounts, a lovely man who regularly reaches out and tries to connect with his daughter, despite his own grief at the loss of his wife. I have very little bad to say about this character. The only downside is that his good qualities reflect badly on Suzu because of how she treats him.
I know it's not time for the negatives yet, but I have to get this point off my chest right now. Suzu treats her dad like shit. Regularly throughout the movie, he reaches out or tries to connect with her, only for her to run away, literally, and ignore him. The movie plays this off like just an anxious, traumatized daughter, but there's one key detail in the movie that ruins this interpretation.
Wait, let me stop you there. We can't go into the negatives yet. There are still a few more positives we have to talk about. Lastly, for the good characters of note, I want to talk about Peggy Sue, another big personality and singer inside You. She feels like she was set up to be some kind of foil for Belle, and honestly, I would have rather watched that movie. There's one line during the big finale that despite being against Belle, the whole movie, she says, "She's just like me," and I really felt that. It tells the audience that behind the mask, everyone's just a person, and watching an outwardly antagonistic character have that realization and start cheering for Belle is super heartwarming.
Now let's talk about the music, because holy shit, it's amazing. We watched the movie in English, and the songs were incredibly powerful. Having now listened to the Japanese version, how the hell did they find an English voice actress who sounds exactly the same as the Japanese one? I'm no musical expert. I can just tell you how I felt while listening to the songs, and I teared up regularly because of how powerful these songs and the singers behind them were, especially the final song. If the movie had ended after that final song, honestly, 10 out of 10, even with its weird pacing issues.
The visuals look great. The 3D models especially are fantastic, but the design of You itself is, oh no, it's not very good. Let me just talk about the 3D models for a second. As a 3D modeler myself, I know how hard it is to make things look like they're 2D, and this movie excels at that. You visibly notice the transition between 2D and 3D, but in no way that impedes your enjoyment of the movie.
The general VFX used in it are pretty impressive. There's a lot of big floral petal movements that go on and a lot of concert visualization, which is very in line with the fact that she's performing an actual 3D concert. The animation was really well done. The lip syncing was a little off, but that may have just been because the dub didn't resync. Lastly, for the positive section of the video, let's talk about what the film sets itself up as and what it could have been. I already told you to go and watch the whole film, but if you haven't done that, at least go and watch the trailer before coming back.
Are you back? Okay, great. Remember the line I mentioned earlier,
I can finally sing again.
Yeah, that line. The movie is not about that at all. The trailer makes you feel like the movie will be all about her struggles with being herself and how she can freely express herself through the avatar of Belle. Let's pretend for a second that it is actually about that, and how her friends like her regardless. And the qualities see the talent in real life, even without the filter of the avatar. Let's pretend that the movie is just that. Then, oh my god, this movie's amazing. Watching Suzu tackle the trauma of the death of her mum when singing only reminds her of her, so she struggles to even bring herself to sing. It's heartbreaking. For this to make sense, the timeline of her mum's death would have to be changed just a little bit, but we will get to that. In this new movie, the climax is when she sings without the avatar with the support of her friends and family. Imagine in this instance that her dad came to see her performance too. That shit would have been such a good movie, but no, sadly not. Remember how Belle is loosely based off Beauty and the Beast? Yeah, me too. That's the problem.
The Beast isn't the only problem in the film, but it is the core. The weird, creepy child abuse core. You didn't hear me wrong. This is a story about child abuse, not about coming out of your shell. That shit got dark out of nowhere, didn't it? Yeah, that's how we felt watching the film.
During the movie, you meet a character called the Beast, an angry bestial character who smashes through into one of Belle's performances. The Beast has these markings on their cape. That's important. Belle is fascinated by the Beast. This could be because the U police are trying to unmask him.
Oh god, the police in you. Okay, put a pin in that. We have to talk about that in a second.
Her fascination with the Beast is probably because people are trying to find out who he is, and that's a sore spot for Belle as someone who's insecure about her own appearance and can't sing without the use of her avatar. That is never explained in the movie. We had to do a lot of reading into her character to come to that conclusion. The pursuit of the Beast is weirdly obsessive. He wants nothing to do with her, but she continues to track him down, even when on multiple occasions he tells her to leave him alone. It's a really weird dynamic. She's in love with him, to the point where she writes a song thinking about Shinobu and the Beast at the same time. She's known Shinobu all her life, but has only met the Beast once. Or maybe they've met on multiple occasions, but we wouldn't know that because the timeline is pretty shit.
This is a good segue into what we like to call the Belle timeline is shit. I don't know how long a time frame this movie takes place over. A good place to start with trying to work it out would be her mother. You find out at the beginning of the movie that her mother died when she was relatively young, and 10 years have since passed. However, the characters act like it happened last week. Has she been ignoring her crush and dad for 10 years? That doesn't really make sense. I understand trauma doesn't just go away, but 10 years? Come on.
The movie then shows Suzu discovering you and making a character.
Small nitpick here, but you apparently scanned your face and body, but for some reason couldn't work out what she looks like from a group photo, and scans Ruka's face instead?
Anyway, she makes her character and can sing instantly, and also becomes insanely popular overnight. Or that's what I thought, because the movie made no attempt to show us how much time had passed. It looked like she woke up and her phone was full of remixes of her songs. I'm still not entirely sure how much time had passed since making her character and her being popular, but I think it must have been months. Actually, this is a good opportunity to talk about Hiroka, or as I like to call her, the Deus Ex Machina.
Oh god, Hiroka. Conceptually, I like her. The funny best friend character who had Suzu's back this whole time. Actually, I even liked watching her on screen, even though she can come off as weirdly controlling of Suzu at times. Her character is some kind of god. She's the sole reason Belle becomes popular. I thought they might go with the idea of other U users who made all this content about Belle and boosted her popularity, but no, it was all Hiroka. She's some kind of tech overlord who can model, edit, hack, code, and texture. She basically has any tech skill that the plot demands. It makes me think that the writers behind Belle don't actually know anything about the internet or the online space, and that kind of brings to light one of the major flaws with Belle in my opinion. You really sucks.
Oh, don't get me started. The design is not even remotely close to what the internet is like now, and not at all how it would be in some far future where we're all in VR. The Belle vision for the future is one continuous space with absolutely no personal control. It's basically the real world. Think about that for a second. It would be shit. You don't even have to imagine it. Watching the movie gave you a sense of how awful a social media experience like you would be. There are multiple occasions where Belle is surrounded and unable to move, or her character is physically hurt. There's no oversight in you, and I believe it has to do with Mamoru Hosoda's lack of imagination when it comes to a virtual space. He's clearly interested in the topic, just look at his previous movie Summer Wars, but in that one, the vague abstractness of the online world worked in its favour. In Belle, the abstract world of shapes and colours just leaves you confused as to how it works. It feels like he was drawing from a modern social media without actually using it himself. That's all speculation though.
The world of You takes place in the VR world of the 90s. Weird, abstract cyberpunk shapes and colours at the fringe of our understanding that access and mess with the body directly. But unfortunately for Mamoru Hosoda, the future is already here, and it's boring. The rise of VR chat and VR in general shows what you would actually be like in the real world. And it's mostly people dicking about and having fun, and a lot of memes. Even with the development of haptic feedback vests and gloves, the world of VR is still safe. If you get overwhelmed, you can just log off and take off your headset. But this idea seems oddly absent from You. A basic safety measure present in every VR MMO isekai is that the system will disable your body so you can't run into a wall or hurt someone.
Hey man, how's it going?
But in You, we see scenes cutting between Suzu in and out of You, simultaneously listening and running around both besides a canal. Not safe at all. This exists purely to seem cool and exciting, but fails the rule of cool by just not actually being cool. How do you get anywhere with these flagrant health and safety violations?
I said there was no oversight, but that's not strictly true. There are these guys, the furry online police, vigilantes that for some unexplained reason have the ability to strip off your avatar and reveal your face inside you. Excuse my language, but what the fuck? The existence of the furry mafia add layers of confusion to an already confusing movie. How did they get this power? I thought You had no oversight. How does the power work? We know that You scans your entire body, but why would the creator program a tool in that would show everyone your real face? Even if your real face is revealed, why can't you just log out? It feels that this was added late into production to add stakes, because they aren't even that important to the story. Why add a big evil antagonist into a story like this? There's no in-film explanation, but we can imagine why. Maybe it's an illegal power accessing that full body scan and replacing the avatar. But that's never said, or even mentioned. That would require a level of understanding about technology that is just not present in Belle.
Okay, enough putting it off. Let's talk about the Beast properly and the ending of the movie. Towards the end of the movie, you learn that the Beast is a child living with an abusive father. This puts into perspective his lashing out while inside You. It is mentioned that throughout the story, the markings on the Beast's cape look kind of like bruises. We didn't really think they did, but oh well, that's what the narrative tells us. They are in fact supposed to be a manifestation of the child's bruises from the beating he gets in real life while he's in You. The physical abuse is never shown on screen, but it is implied very heavily. The Beast's real name is K, and we discover he gets these bruises on his back because he's protecting his brother Tomo. These scenes are one of the most realistic and haunting displays of abuse I've ever seen in a film. The pacing was perfect to force the audience to just watch and be as unable to help as the characters were in the scene. It was dramatic and haunting. This could have been a really powerful moment if it wasn't just kind of thrown in at the end.
But even without the actual beatings, watching a scene of a man threatening his cowering children is just not the correct tone for the uplifting movie we've been watching. To add insult to injury, they never really even help the boys. Once they find out where Kei and Tomo live, the cast tried to call Child Protective Services, and they get ignored. This scene feels like a heavy indictment of Japanese child protective services, but this idea goes no further than being a plot device to force Suzu into needing to go there herself. So this cast of 9 characters at this point in the movie decided to let Suzu travel alone to confront a full grown-ass man who beats his children. Yeah, that's really smart. This could have been a cool moment where the users of You come together and track him down. A kind of community story, but no, unfortunately not.
Apparently everyone and their mum is using You, but none of them recognize this guy, or the kids, or the area enough to help, despite the fact we see the dad being sent clips from a livestream of him abusing his own children. People knew, and they didn't help. The story is so focused on Belle that it ignores the abusive aspect. Let me paint you a picture. Suzu turns up to confront the father. The father physically hurts Suzu. She stares him down, and he breaks down crying. Kei says thank you, I'll fight back from now on. And then Suzu goes home. Job well done.
Let's dissect how every element in that scene is fucked. First off, why did they let her go alone? Any of the adults could have gone with her. Shit, her dad could have gone with her. And maybe he could have talked some sense into Kei and Tomo's dad. It's implied their dad went through some kind of grief. It resulted in him lashing out at his own children. It would have been a great parallel about how you can control and respond to trauma. The moral conclusion to the abuse storyline is to fight back. Yeah, that's not good advice to give to adults, let alone children. It should have been about reaching out for help and going to the correct authorities. It turns Belle from an uplifting story about being true to yourself and helping others into a story about a selfish girl who has no regard for the other people in her life. She fucking leaves the kids with their abusive dad. What? Why would she leave them with him unless she thinks it's over? She feels better that she's done something and now she's gotten over the death of her mum and it's fine. That's it.
But as the audience, all it felt was that we'd been betrayed by our main character and by the writing of the film. We were in shock and kept expecting the kids to appear alongside them, free from their abuse, but nope, it's just all happy fun times now, and no one has ever been treated worse after lashing out and confronting their abuser. It genuinely felt that somewhere off screen those children could have been murdered and the film just moved on.
Let's dive more into the character of Suzu, shall we? This one detail at the end changes the perspective on her to a profoundly negative one. Suzu is a character that will ignore anyone who tries to help her. I mean, on multiple occasions, when people try to reach out to her, she literally runs away from them. Now, this behavior would have been an interesting dive into how different people deal with grief if her mum's death had been recent, but the death was over 10 years prior to the start of the movie. And I'm not saying you can't be grieving after 10 years. However, her actions are more of a representation of her as a person and less of her reaction to trauma.
Suzu acts like someone who's just experienced trauma last week, and everyone around her reacts the same way. She's treated with a gentle compassion that makes every other character look like they have the compassion of a saint. Shinobu still keeps a distant but protective eye on her, despite her acting childishly and pushing him away. This could have been an expression of her own self-hatred, but it comes across more that she's just a bitch.
There are also features of her that come across really odd to a more Western audience. Suzu was supposedly pretty ugly, or at least not conventionally attractive, and the reason the film gives for this? She has freckles. That's it. This is one of the few things that is outright stated in the film. Suzu thinks she's ugly because she has freckles. As a Western audience, maybe it really is just that high of a bar to be considered beautiful in Japan. The film then never really has her get over this, or believe she's okay as she is. There are scenes that are supposed to do this, but it really feels that at the end of the film, she's almost effectively the same person. The message of self-appreciation is barely there despite how touching the scene of her revealing her true self to Yu feels. She exposes her true self to the world of Yu to try and win Kei's trust, which is touching and emotional, but midway through she just reverts back to Belle, which also undermines the whole fear of the furry police's power. It never implies it would be a temporary reveal, but this may be indicative of a production issue that we will touch on later.
We then move on to the ending, where she shows on full display her selfish nature when she leaves Kei and Tomo to their fate after doing one simple thing and possibly making the situation worse. The worst part is I don't think this is intentional character writing. I think the intention was to make this be the moment she understands why her mum died trying to save a stranger. But where her mum's sacrifice led to the saving of a child at the cost of her life, Suzu gets a scratch on her face and then goes home as if everything's fine. This leads us on to the pure speculation part of this video.
Now, this film might have had a troubled production run. We could be wrong, but I find it hard to believe that Mamoru Hosoda would come out with such an inconsistent mess without some level of production troubles or meddling. It really feels like they could have had a fantastic story here about overcoming trauma and understanding your parents. Or they could have had a story about personal acceptance. Or they could have done a Beauty and the Beast film, even with the child abuse element. Although doing Beauty and the Beast when one of the two in the classic love story is considerably younger is a little odd. Kei is explicitly stated as 15 in the film, and Suzu's late high school? Anyway, they could have done any of those stories really well, but they tried to do all three, and the story became an overcomplicated mess with no satisfying conclusions.
Let me tell you the best example of this being an issue. Suzu makes amends with her father over text while traveling to go and see Kei and Tomo. One of the key plot points up to this point is her weird relationship with her dad, and it's resolved over text. Don't get me wrong, the scenes look beautiful, but there was no substance there. There's no narrative reason her father couldn't have been on the train with her, or even driven her there. The only reason this happens is because the plot wanted her to go alone for some reason, and it's never specified why.
The Beauty and the Beast segments feel like they were tacked on later into the production because, to be honest, strip those out and focus on Belle's rise to fame and it's a much better movie. For a film that almost seemed like it would touch on the concept of self-image and fame on the social media age, none of this is really discussed. Her fame comes easily, which we know is not that simple, despite years of trying, but hey, maybe this video will be the one.
Like and subscribe.
The conflict between real and online self is discussed through some side characters and the idea that everyone has something to hide online. But this is undercut by a weird character design choice, which is that despite the fact that Yu scans your body, there are almost no human avatars beyond Belle and Peggy Sue. Everyone is some kind of weird gremlin creature and feels odd unless everyone in the world except Suzu has some really weird internal struggles going on.
In one of the final scenes in Yu, there's also a very weird production issue that manages to completely undo the film's message. We began forgetting to mention it earlier, but halfway through the scene of Belle revealing herself as Suzu turns back into Belle. This stuck out because it was very obvious what happened while we were watching. They reused the exact same scene from the beginning of the film. This is the scene from the trailer that I assume everyone's seen, where we see her sing on the whale. The animation is identical, which implies they did not have the time to remake it with the 3D Suzu model. It's a shame considering how it's one of the most impressive 3D models of a 2D character I've ever seen. By having Suzu become Belle again, it really does completely destroy the idea of being true to yourself and confronting your issues of self-identity. It makes little narrative sense as supposedly being revealed was some massive issue, and it makes no thematic sense as Suzu gets to just go back to being Belle with no issues.
Belle is an incredible movie that's being pulled in every direction by separate storylines and plot threads. Give it an extra hour and pay attention to every element it deserves, or strip some of those out. We walked out of the movie being disgusted by the way it treated child abuse and how poorly handled the message was. The message of this movie is to be yourself, and also adults are useless and fight your abusers. 2 out of 3 of those are not great messages to be sending to anyone. So close to being great with moments that made us tear up, but it stumbled at the finish line and fell down hard.
It really is a shame that this film didn't hit the mark, because it genuinely could have been a modern great if a little more care had been paid to the writing. We have no idea how someone could come out of this film without mixed feelings, so please comment your opinions so we know we aren't alone in this.
It really feels like we are alone, but you know, hopefully, maybe, some people will agree with us, that'd be nice.
And you know, like, subscribe,
Yeah, do
follow us on Twitter.
do all that stuff. Do follow us on TikTok. That's one place that we post things on.
Yeah, this has taken a lot. It's a very different kind of content, but you know, if people like it, we'll make more.
Woo!